Well, thank you very much for inviting me to speak on this. It's a very sad subject because it means a woman who disappeared years ago has been on trial in the United States of America and will disappear into prison unless we do something about it. And the evidence against her is minimal. She goes to an airport in Pakistan and disappears, kidnapped by somebody. And then 5 years later she reappears, allegedly with a whole book of instructions about how to blow up American buildings, a whole book of instructions like that, and then she's put back in prison, and then there is some absurd story that she picks up an automatic rifle with 5 American men there, or true translators, and shoots them, or doesn't shoot them, because she doesn't know how to do it. So the story doesn't hang together at all. In what prison do you have a prisoner wandering about secretly behind a curtain? It's ridiculous. I think that there should be an independent judicial inquiry here in Britain. We should get witnesses and get the statements out and really take the evidence. Because this case, it says on this paper, a case of lies and inconsistencies. And it's exactly what it is, lies and inconsistencies. The story does not hang together. I hope, in the interests of common humanity, that she will get a release and compensation for the years she's lost, and her children, the worst, her children returned to her, whoever has taken the children. Anyway, thank you very much for asking me to speak.
Because Women's Voice stands for justice for all, I think Dr. Aafia Siddqui's case is a prime example where there has been injustice done. In a very small way, we are trying to create awareness amongst local communities. Who is Dr. Aafia Siddqui? What has happened to her? And how we can assist. As I said, we are a very small organization, we are volunteers, and we are trying to create awareness. Tell people her story, tell the injustice that has been done, and then make those demands not only of our own government, but also those government who are responsible for where she is at the moment. I believe, from my novice understanding, there are approximately 135 women in Zionist jails. Now, because those individual cases have not been dealt with in such a high-profile manner, that doesn't mean to say that women are not suffering. Look at Chechnya, look at Kashmir. But Aafia Siddqui's case is different, and it was picked up by a journalist. Therefore, it was highlighted. It came in the public domain. And Aafia Siddqui is suffering injustice, and I'm so sorry to say that one of her crimes is that she belongs to a community, a Muslim community, and politically the Muslim community is weak. It's not that the enemy is strong, but I think we as a Muslim, we're weak. As you know that they're going to sentence her very shortly. I'm also a great believer that prayers are a very strong source of my faith, and it gives me the strength. I believe that if we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us, I think there is a way forward. But I think Dr. Aafia Siddqui is an example of how injustices are perpetuated against people. But I think God in His own way is also saying that there is a way. And for me, there are lots of organizations who are fighting on our behalf, raising money, fighting from a legal perspective. My organization can't do all that, so we do rely a lot on prayers. I mean, it will not release Dr. Aafia Siddqui, but I think we need to keep working at different levels. I can only speak on behalf of my own organization. I cannot speak for others. I know that we need to continue creating awareness about what is happening with Dr. Aafia Siddqui and with other women who are suffering, but also that we must continue to live very high standard that Islam imposes on us. And I sometimes feel that maybe we have not lived those high standards and we are suffering.
I spent 3 years in Bagram and Guantanamo. I learned a lot about myself. It included being held in solitary confinement for years. It included being subject to cruel and inhumane and degrading treatment. But it also included learning something about myself, and that was learning accepting the notion of patience, which is something that developed within me during my years there. I was kidnapped from my house in Islamabad, where I was living, after I'd evacuated from Afghanistan, where I'd been working on a project to build a school for girls, and I'd been there with my wife and children, and remained there until the US-led invasion. and I believe I was sold for a bounty of several $1,000s by the Pakistanis to the Americans. I used to hear the sounds of her screaming. At one point I was led to believe it was my wife being tortured next door. I've done my own investigations into her case, and I'm not convinced that she was prisoner 650. I believe she was another woman. Prisoner 650 has been spoken of by many people, and I don't know whether 650 for sure was Aafia Siddqui, but I know this much, is that there was a series, there was a process the Americans had of detaining women, and they had several women in custody in Bagram. It's important, I think, that people remember her case, not simply because of Aafia herself, but because of the hundreds of women who've been held in extrajudicial custody, particularly in Iraq, and their story has not been told yet. And I think it's going to be devastating once the pictures of what their abuse was does come to light.